This one looks pretty tough.
Splicing facilities are strangely quiet. Too quiet.
Was that all? Uh-oh.
You're no... As for science... Go, my minion! Sting them in the name of all that is Mobius!
That's all.
Kill that son
Sneaking
of a
done.
bitch.
Fighting now.
There's nothing I like better than making some other poor bastard die for his country.
Bad guys dealt with. This one looks pretty tough.
I end you.
Who do you think is cuter, Dr. Klein or Dr. Boros? That's all. Ready, steady, fighty. guys dealt with. This one looks pretty tough.
Please put on your goggles and take your Rad-X now. The X-42 giant robo-scorpion is alive! In the name of all that is Mobius!
Cessation of hostilities complete. You're my best friend forever.
Oh, hello there. You are there, aren't you? Forgive my confusion. So hard to tell these days. You seem familiar somehow. I'm guessing you're here for your brain, perhaps? A little hard to see you. Can you walk into my... Depth perception is a problem with this old monitor of mine. Should look at getting the visual nerves read. Would you care for a mentat? I have all sorts of amazingly... I forget them all not long after, though. Especially had to start using the dome floor and walls here to inscribe equations. Really? That implies preconceived notions, theory. After all, it might be worth a cognitive realignment if your theoretical Mobius has been... Do you? You seem fine. And does it even want to go back with you? Maybe you... Tell you what, I'll leave it up to your brain. Oh, curiosity. Oh, a variety of raisins. You're something of a... You see, you are the most successful brain extraction experiment ever performed. If you were to go back with what your brain knows about, your brain could be popped back in and you could walk right out of. I'm not sure, except that I'm sure there's a very good reason for it. I have very good reasons, even if I forget them. I find things curious. Well, every scientist needs an arm. How scary, I thought. But then I thought, what if they Then I thought about custard. Yes, this is getting interesting. You are just filled with... Oh, I was probably tripping hard on Psycho when I sent that. Had to work myself up to it. So many chems, such... As for the Psycho, sometimes get the chem dispositories in my tank all switched up. Did I? Maybe I did. Can't have them leaving. Some reason for it. Ethics. You and your brain are quite alike. I'm sure it knows the reasons better. This name's as real as you. Someone's been watching too many old world I must admit I have a vulnerability. Like the think tank, we were all reprogrammed to forget them. Now, trap is a rather harsh word. Like, what? Yes, I did take some liberties with their programming. I certainly didn't until you said trap, and then I said X. The radar fence to keep the think tank hemmed in wasn't really enough. They keep testing things. They would have found... I suspect I have Plan C. So I had to do something else to keep them occupied here. Dr. O, which is actually not his real name. They have all forgotten themselves. And not only themselves, but the world. I reprogrammed their chronometers. It was a merciful lobotomy, and the world isn't ready for that kind of Well, it's simple. Despite them, without something to distract them, make them afraid, then you came along, the final variable solved. There have been other visitors to make them doubt their You were irrefutable proof that there was a world outside. And then, see, your brain had a special kind of wrinkle. Yes, very good. I should have mentats in just you. In any event, You showed up at the think tank, and because you had suffered a cranial injury, bullets in the head are usually much more fatal. But it was enough for the autodoc in the sink to change its programming to fix the problem. And the brain extraction that gave the think tank the knowledge its brains. If they obtain that procedural data, they can use it to mush and modify their cranial cells into hosts, and once they're off the not much, except one caused a great deal of infrastructure damage with his brain and smart. But the last one was the most dangerous. Him slipping away. That was almost as bad as the think tank escaping. The first one, the ruthless one who smashed up our toy trains, asked for weapons, The other asked a different question. He spoke to the think tank, to Klein, showed them the flag of the old world. They shared things with him that they shouldn't. He now kept... Yes, I certainly wouldn't loop it on purpose. Oh, I don't think they understood either. My threat broadcast is designed to instill and install fear, and along with the emotional download, it prompted them to focus on retrieving those technologies and bring them to attack. And coincidentally, pardon my language, all those technologies are needed to put a brain, your brain, back into its... The X2 antenna can be used to focus your alpha wave frequency thought patterns. The sneaky suit, why, it housed... And the sonic sound wave projecto emitter was never intended as a... In short, brains, aha. They had them all the time. Yes, my overly aggressive cammed-up broadcast was designed to keep reinforcing the forget, fear, rent. Oh, and the get me the things to castrate your only... But I couldn't delete you or your arrival any more than I could the other visitors. You're really quite difficult to ignore, you know. It's because you're, well... rather intriguing, if you'll forgive an old brain for saying. Oh, that means my plan is a total failure. That is unfortunate. Oh well, at least I... Indeed, the goodbye part of our little chat then. Goodbye. I'm having the most... Oh, I tried. Indeed.
Well, look who finally dragged themselves in out of the wasteland. And where have we... Ah, lovely. Figure that out, huh? Well, that's a fine how do you do. Me. I'm not the one that makes us clamber around Technus-infested ancient vaults. And have we forgotten who got us shot in the head and buried in a shallow grave? Hmm? Well, maybe next time you hear me telling you that charging a nightkin with a penknife is... I'm not going to lie to you. The prospect is definite. Look at it from my perspective. Here I have peace, quiet. In your head, I've got poison, radiation. Do you know how much more you can get done when you're not constantly... Overrated biological feedback. Well, certainly there might be some things I miss about being ambulatory. But still, given the tremendous potentially life... I don't believe it. It's just a simple fact. One may as well believe the Earth is round. Of course you... After the think tank extracted me from your skull, they fell to bickering amongst themselves. I'm sad to say, Dr. Mobius saw an opportunity to gain some... I don't know. I'm afraid the trauma of our separation... I'm quite sure whatever he did was highly scientific. Hardly. Dr. Mobius keeps a close optical sensor on the goings-on at the think tank. As soon... Well, as long as you're... Ah, well, as to that, you'd be surprised how hard a feminine-sounding voice modulates. It's not as though brain-sustaining life support... Barring the unlikely event that I evolve some sort of rocket... Ah, the meat has returned. I'm not going to lie to you. The prospect is definitely not... Look at it from my perspective. Here I have peace, quiet. In your head, I've got poison. Do you know how much more you can get done? I can see there's going to be no reasoning with you at all, is there? I'm nothing more than a slave to... Barring the Ah, the meat has returned. I'm not going to lie to you. Look, in your head, do you know how much more you can get? If you want me back, we need to establish some ground rules. First, showers! Second, regular checkups. Third, you need to listen to me more than your hormonal choir and genitalian... Really? I didn't expect you to actually agree. Of course you do. Ugh, crawl back in there? Are you mad? For all I know, you're riddled. I'm not crawling back into your head just to ooze right back out. Even if I believe you, even if I wanted to settle myself back in your skull and go to all the trouble of reconnecting nerve endings, Dr. Mobius doesn't have the tools here. We would have to make use of Dr. Klein's lab, and I rather doubt the brains are inclined to share. And you believe them? Really? I know you were recently deprived. Once I'm delivered into their clutches, they'll find a way past the radar fence and the whole Mojave. And that is assuming, of course, that one of them doesn't take a fancy to our body and decide... Don't seem so bad. They vivisect. Imagine that kind of science spread across the entire Mojave. Is that what you want? Oh, lovely. We've reached the mindless violence portion of the program. With an attitude like that, it's small wonder you got yourself shot in the head. I'd like to find a nice little place to live, maybe in Good Springs, and settle down where we won't get shot at. But since that doesn't seem likely... Very well, I suppose I have no choice. I suppose now that we're reunited, you'll want to fill your torso up with those other meaty parts the think tank took from us. Personally, I think your upgrades are quite a bit better. Right then, off we go. Klein will be in for a nasty shock when he realizes the pacification field won't work on a mind and body
Might I be of service, sir? Very good, sir.
We haven't seen anybody in a while. Maybe the monsters have stealth suits too.
Ooh, oh yeah, baby. It's the miracle of life, baby. You bring me some succulent genetic. I can also break them down for you, if you're into the... Yeah. Hurry back with that seed now, baby. You ever seen a biological research station this full of seed? No. No, you haven't.
Ooh, yeah, dig that. Dig, I'm a acoustical wizard, kid. Oh, get me a good sample. Got yourself a sonic emit or scream. Right on. Catch you later.
A most rapturous good morrow on your return to your domicile, sir.
Well, how about that? Old Autodoc's back. You are, without a doubt, the healthiest son of a bitch I've ever seen wandering the big empty. And rightly so, I should think. All right, then.
I trust you shall find things in order and the riff-raff contained.
You require some additional services? Concerned about the state of your mind, are you? I should make you... All right, just try to relax. You require some additional services? And right. You require some additional services?
The lobotomite returns. Our lobotomite. Has Dr. Mobius been denominated? I recommend watching your tone with... Now, your brain. Hand it over. A fight? I've never been in a... Colleagues! Think tank!
This one looks pretty tough.
Does this weapon have soft lock? Anyone? I will unleash the incredible...
Fighting over.
As it had been in the years before the Great War, Big Mountain, the Big Empty, became home to one of the brightest minds of the 23rd century. The Courier watched over the Big Empty for years to come, caring for it and keeping its discoveries safe until they were needed to help others. Which had always been Big Mountain's purpose. Past the laboratories and science, it had always been intended as a place to build the future of all mankind.
Although, truth be told, the Courier had barely explored the crater in an attempt to rush through and be done with the whole thing. Perhaps that was for the best, however. Curiosity, while sometimes rewarded for its efforts, often proves to be equally dangerous.
Dr. Mobius continued his research undisturbed in the Forbidden Zone. As much as he had attempted to create better scorpions, he tried the same with humanity, with considerably less success. These failures didn't bother him overmuch. Once the rush of mentats wore off, he forgot he had failed in any event. After all, the bright young mind who had come to visit him in the Forbidden Zone had already exceeded his expectations.
The sink atop the dome gained a frontier town feel with the few modules installed. They shouted at each other across the HQ occasionally, either threatening each other or announcing a discovery. It kept things lively. Secretly, the Sync Central Intelligence Unit was relieved that not all of the personality chips had been found. What was there was enough.
The Biological Research Station, obsessed with seeding everything in sight, requested a transfer to the X-22 Botanical Garden, so that it might, in its own words, sensually fertilize the garden's smooth contours. The garden sent back a polite refusal, saying it had prior commitments with a vault it had helped infect before the war.
Blind-eye old Jefferson eventually discovered a new sound. Silence. It only made him more filled with the blues than before.
Autodoc, always gentle and methodical, kept sewing up the Courier in all the right places when the skin split open from repeated wear and tear. The Autodoc was just glad to have purpose again. It heard its simpler brothers and sisters who got shipped to the Sierra Madre bored out of their skulls in that toxic dead city. In time, the Autodoc found a way to deactivate the Y-17 trauma harnesses, releasing the corpses they had held prisoner for almost 200 years.
As the Courier made his way through the X-8 facility, the computers analyzed the test subjects' movements. They eventually created new cyberdogs to root out commie traitors from the wasteland. Traitors like Betsy Bright, Richie Marcus. Although they couldn't seem to find any commies, so they turned on themselves, howling sonic barks that echoed miles across the landscape.
The infiltration program in X-13 continued to scan for the subject and the stealth suit prototype long after the test was over. Frustrated and unable to find its lost technology, X-13 expanded its network of laser tripwires, sensors, and robo-brains out across Big Mountain. This glittering blue light beam forest cleanly bisected anything that entered its depths, slicing them into small segmented parts for easy disposal.
The Courier, organs intact, continued onwards, a little less heavy of step, but with all the organs in the right places, as they should be. After all, brains can develop a life of their own when left to their own thoughts, and the Courier's brain was more clever than most.
The think tank basement, filled with the lobotomized robotical frames of the doctors, now served as a graveyard. The monitors had recorded the battle in its entirety, including the think tank's final, shrill, terrified screams, whimpers, and pleas for mercy. They broadcast these humiliating last moments as a warning to anyone approaching the perimeter that other smarty pants were not welcome. The courier was the inheritor of the Big Empty, and there was room for only one will in the halls of the Think Tank Dome.
There is an expression in the wasteland, old world blues.
It refers to those so obsessed with the past they can't see the present, much less the future, for what it is.
They stare into the what was, eyes like pilot lights, guttering and spent, as the realities of their world continue on around them.
Science is a long, steady progression into the future. What may seem a sudden event often isn't felt for years, even centuries to come.
In the times following the Second Battle of Hoover Dam, however, old world blues took on a new meaning.
Where once it was viewed as a form of sadness, nostalgia, it became an expression describing the potential for the future.
It can be easy to see science as evil, technology unchecked as the source of all ills, all misfortunes.
With the courier at the helm, science became a beacon for the future. There was old world blues, and new world hope. And hope ruled the day at Big Mountain.
We could say more, but the stories in the Big Empty speak for themselves. Now armed with the transportal Ponder, the courier could return to the dome at any time and crack open the secrets of the Big Empty one by one. The Sync sat vigilant, waiting for its master to return, shoes covered in Mojave dust. Only one road yet remained, and it was one the courier had to walk alone. Might I be safe in the assumption that matters with the think tank had been satisfactorily Very good indeed. Very good, sir.
Has got a severe case of shoe lung.
Sneaking done. Fighting now. You're my best friend forever.